Observaciones de mi vida, victoria. Mi vida ya está escrita. Victoria. Pero sigo el mismo, nunca cambio, aunque tenga muchos títulos. Ahora muchos me dicen Sabor Latino. Te felicito, mi hermano, eres famoso. Gracias por todo el apoyo, es la respuesta. El mensaje: nunca te rindas en la vida. Y nunca me olvido de esa celda que hasta hoy tengo. Muchas pesadillas, 360, la vida da vuelta. Ahora inspiro familias en una escuela. 7 publicaciones, sueños cumplidos. Que represento, hip-hop positivo. Los dolores ahora son canciones. Más bendiciones, más observaciones y más versos. Ahora más escupo bendiciones. Ahora me despido. Victoria, porque me montan tanta.
Good evening, good evening, good evening, good evening, everyone out there. Welcome back to another episode of A Learning Moment with Sabor Latino. Oh man, like I always say, so excited. Another day, another opportunity, another podcast, right? So just again, very excited. But before I talk a little bit about me, how you guys are doing out there? I hope you guys are doing well out there. I tell you, this weather's been a little bit funny, right? One day it's a little bit warm, one day it's a little bit chilly. It's just so confusing, guys. I just can't wait till we start getting this good spring weather coming around soon, right? We already, April 2nd today. So hopefully we can get some good weather, right? And really start enjoying this weather, because after a while, it really starts. But again, we got to be positive, right? We got to be thankful. Those is just part of life, right? We're going to have challenges. We're going to have bad weather. We're going to have good weather. So it all comes in with a package, right? But again, sincerely, I hope you guys are doing well. I know you guys out there working and trying to accomplish your goals and everything. Stay focused, stay positive, right? That's all important. That's all very, 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 very important, right? Oh, by the way, shout out to the youth out there, right? I know you guys got about 10 days off this week and a half coming up. Very important, right? Having time off, right? The importance of self-care, the importance of getting yourself some rest. The importance of finding a safe space and just spend some time alone, right? Really assessing what's been going on this whole year in your life, in school, right? And how you can continue to stay focused, right? After this little break that you're going to have, getting back to school. After that, we probably got about 10, 12 weeks left after that. So again, just really locking in and staying focused and continue to do good and continue to try to get those good grades, right? But yeah, just enjoy that break. So, with all this being said, guys, another episode. And the funny thing about it is that we're getting closer and closer to the end of season 1, which is 10 episodes. But before that, I want to share a little bit of moment today. Today, I really had a good day. And the reason I say that is because, a lot of the times, like me, like you, we're running around and try to take care of so many different things in life, right? But one of the things that we forget about is giving thanks to the higher power, right? So today I really took some time off and said to myself, you know what? I'm going over there to see the brothers over there, see how they doing. So it was just such a great experience again, going out there and being grateful for the Lord for giving me so many blessings, for giving me my own show now, my own podcast. And I can't forget about that. That's not fair. How is that going to be fair if the Lord has given you so many blessings and we can't give him some time of our busy schedule? Nah. So I had to make it my business today. It felt really, really good. And moving forward, I'm definitely going to try to keep going a little bit more. And it was so nice to see the brothers again and hear that positive message from the Lord. And they spoke about being grateful, enjoying the moment, right? And things like that. So just wanted to share that with you guys. It was a great day today. I'm just feeling energized. I'm feeling blessed right now, right? Let me pass on this positive energy to my fans, to the people checking in and everything else like that, right? But before I go on, if you're just tuning into the show or the podcast, you're probably wondering, what is this, another podcast? Well, take a listen. Let me start by just pretty much introducing myself, just in case you never heard about me. My name is Robert Torres, also known as stage name Sabor Latino, Spanish hip-hop artist and author from Jamaica, Queens. Been in the music business for over 13 years. got about 3 or 4 musical projects, singles, and I'm also a published author. I just recently finished publishing my 5th book, You Are a Beautiful and Special Person No Matter What. And you're probably saying to yourself, oh, wow, that's some good stuff he's doing. Okay, so what's going on with this podcast? Well, regarding the podcast, just in case you're thinking about it, the reason I put this together was I really wanted to focus on an extension of what Sabor Latino does, positive hip hop, right? Motivational speaker, public figure, just being a positive role model to the youth, right? And I wanted to do something special. I wanted to take things to the next level. Actually, I began kicking off the year with my 3rd publication, 125 quotes gathered from my life's observations, with quotes. So I started off the year trying to be more visible online. I know a lot of you guys probably read the books and listen to the music and everything else, and you really don't have that much time to really see who Sabor Latino really is in person. So that's another reason why I did it. But more importantly, to just extend the work that I'm doing and take it into the podcast world, and touch more fans out there, more people, to bring that positive message to them, right? As you guys know, so many negative things are going on in this world. As soon as you turn on the TV, right, there's so much negativity, right? And sometimes it's just sad. But I wanted to make sure that over these probably last 6 months, after publishing the book, I wanted to give it more time. I was like, okay, we got that 5th book in, we completed them goals, so let's take it to the next level now with the podcast. And I really took my time, strategic planning, put some ideas together. I was like, okay, let's do this. Where we gonna get the distribution from? What is the impact? I always say that. Anytime you want to do a project, you always got to think about what is the impact, right? What are we doing here? What are we trying to accomplish here? What kind of impact we're trying to have, especially with my brand being a positive hip hop artist and just being positive, right? So put those ideas and thoughts together. And I said, what would be a nice way to kick off a nice podcast with 10 learning moments, right? I mean, I have so many learning moments, right? So I said to myself, you know what? I think these 10, we're gonna start it off with this, and then from there we'll add to it, and hopefully in the future I'll have some guests coming in here and giving them, telling us about their learning moments, right? And how can I help the world, right? How can I help a youth out there when he might be going through a situation and he just needed to hear something positive, right? So yeah, so that's pretty much what I'm trying to do. But I'll kick off real quick the 10 episodes for the newcomers coming in, guys. I know you guys are trying, the other people that are listening and checking in, my fans, I know you want to get into episode number 9, respect others, but we're going to get into that, right? Just give me 1 second. So again, the first episode, the value of education, really focusing on the youth and why is that so important. Season 2 or episode 2, importance of creating goals, right? Everything has to be meaningful. Then we talk about having discipline. Number 3, number 4, rewarding yourself. A lot of the times we run around and do so much things for so many people, but we really forget to do things for ourselves. So I really think rewarding yourself is so important. And we definitely can't forget about that, right? Another one is gratitude. Episode number 5, being thankful, right? The reason I put that in there is because I've seen so many people, or I've given so many people opportunities, and a lot of times they forget to be grateful, right? So it's something to think about. That's a learning moment, right? When we're hiring people, I know sometimes I go from the gut what my heart is telling me, right? But sometimes that could be a risk depending on how it goes, right? But it is important to give people opportunity. It is important to be grateful. And that's all part of what's going on in life, right? Sometimes you got to take that chance. And most of the time I've been blessed to have good workers and people under me really doing a good job. But those are just learning moments, right? One of the biggest things that I think out of the 10 is don't ever forget where you come from. Wow. A lot of people, you give them opportunity and they start climbing up the ladder, and the next thing you know, they forget where they come from. I'm going to continue to say it. Born and raised in Jamaica, Queens. I'll never forget where I come from. You know what I mean? And it's very important as you're transitioning into that those spaces slowly of success, all I ask is please don't forget where you come from. So again, real deep episode. And then we move on to number 7, where I talk about exercising your talents. And I've seen so many people with so much talent, and sometimes it just goes to waste because people don't take that seriously, right? So again, all these life areas that I talk about in these opening up this podcast for the first 10, I think they're real deep, real interesting, real motivating, real self-reflection, right? It really makes you dig down inside and say, oh my God, you know what? You're right. I always give so much to other people, and unfortunately, I don't receive no rewards. And it's not like we're looking for rewards. It's just the reality of it, that we have to learn to reward ourselves, because most of the time, no one is going to reward us, right? And that's part of self-care. That's part of building your self-esteem. That's part of your identity. That's part of knowing that when I work hard, I should be rewarding my own self. And it doesn't have to be every time you get paid or whatever, you want to go buy a car. No, the simplest things. And I mentioned it in the episode where I really talk about the importance of self-care. And every time Sabor Latino finishes a project, or every time I get paid, whatever it may be, I go reward myself with a nice little haircut. Image is also very important when we're talking about life, right? And presentations, right? So again, all these areas, one way or another, they all go together to inspire you. They all go together to find who you really are. At times, as we're transitioning into adulthood, or we're in adulthood now with all these responsibilities and doing for others, and we just forget about who we are. We lose ourselves in that moment of success. We lose ourselves in that moment when we're starting to get more finances. We lose ourselves in that moment when we're climbing the ladder and reaching more higher level of positions, leadership roles, right? So again, all these areas, being very mindful of how they all work. And not only about, I always say it, not only being about the grade of school, but how we make it into the grade of life, right? The same way when we in school and working to get them high GPAs, how do we work hard in life with those areas and get passing grades in all those areas in life, right? And again, that's all part of building self-esteem. That's all part of mental health and all those areas, right? This is a real good one. Episode number 8, we just touched on it recently, being a superstar in your own space. And with that, I talk about how sometimes we just complain about so many different things. And if we only knew that we don't have to have a big leadership role. We don't have to be the best player on the team. We don't have to be the best district manager or director, right? Knowing your role, right? And how you can become a superstar in your own role. By the way, shout out to all those people out there that are in that space, right? And they just try their best to be what they can be. Shout out to you guys. I compliment you guys, right? Really understanding that sometimes it's the opportunity that you're getting, and what are you doing with that opportunity? Sometimes it's the opportunity that you're getting, and how do you grow there? And all those life area skills that you're learning there, how can you apply it when you move on to another job in your life, or a better paying job, right? It's all about learning moments. One of the things that I've realized from all this data and data that I've collected over 33 years working music, business, books, and youth, and caseworker, counselor, is that everything always has to be a goal. Everything always has to be a competition. Everything always has to be who has the higher grade. I personally think it doesn't always have to be like that. I think it's all about more passion, finding what you really love, and it becomes a passion and not a job. Trying to see how you can work less and do more. Think about it, working less and doing more. Being mindful about your surroundings. How do I become a superstar in my own little space? How do I create change in my own little space? And I gave some learning moments when I was in some of those spaces, and how I was able to just become a superstar in my own little space. And it all starts with the vision. What is the vision when you are in that space? What is the vision that you're trying to accomplish when you're in that space? And that's part of goals. That's part of confidence. That's part of a leadership and not a follower. Part of being a leader, right? So again, all these areas, really digging in, having these conversations, really having these learning moments. And where are we going with this? How can you use these areas, all these conversations or all these episodes that we're speaking about? And how do we use them as a sense of reflection? But wait a minute. Now that I think about it, Sabor Latino is right. I don't reward myself. Think about it. When was the last time that you rewarded yourself? When was the last time that you really appreciated where you come from? When was the last time that you thought about, I need to be more disciplined and not be procrastinating? And I'm saying this respectfully, right? This is all learning moments, right? How many times we create goals or we try to do things in life and we don't accomplish them because of discipline? How many times we know that we're supposed to get up early for that appointment that we got tomorrow, and we take our time getting out of bed and going getting there late, right? Again, we're not pointing fingers, just learning moments. Discipline is very important. I'm a high believer in intelligence, yes, but discipline, I'm a higher believer of that. Because I always felt like intelligence can only take you so far, especially if you're not giving your time, that time to exercise in those talents, right? So again, really being mindful about what's going on here on this side of town with this new podcast about a learning moment. What are some deep things that we're talking about here? What are some things that you can take away from here and make your life a little bit better, right? Yeah, so then that's what pretty much that was. We ended up closing it out with episode number 8, right? And today we're doing episode 9. And today is a really interesting topic where I talk about respect for others. Wow. You know, let's get into it. You might be saying to yourself, Sabor Latino, respect for others. Why would you put that on there? Think about it. A lot of the times, how many people you know that they demand respect? Not even ask, they demand for respect. But a lot of people are not willing to give that respect. I'm a high believer in not only boundaries, but also respect. And boundaries is part of respect, right? Because although we're building this relationship with someone and we're strengthening that relationship, we're open to possibilities, we're sharing so many different things together, right? But what happens is when we become closer, for some reason or another, we begin to break those boundaries, right? And we forget about respect. I've been around for years, and I've seen the toughest guys be the most humblest individuals in the world. Being respectful goes so far in life. To all the youth out there, a learning moment. Respect your teachers. Respect your parents. Respect your mentors, your coaches. I know a lot of the times it may be a state of confusion, or maybe a state of why they always got to be talking about me, or why they always got to be pointing the finger. But if you really think about it and look at it, all they're trying to do is support you and motivate you to become that best version of yourself and to truly become a productive member of society. Respect others, respect yourself, respect your parents. It's very important. I'm really, 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 really big on that. Because I know when you respect people, they're going to respect you back most of the time. When you genuinely a caring person, you generally believe in gratitude, you generally just overall have that good energy. And on top of that, you're respectful. There's a high probability that you're going to do well in life. You see, when we're crossing those boundaries, now when we're being disrespectful, now when the tone of voice starts to get higher and higher, and we just start disrespecting each other, that's when it can go bad. So always thinking about that we're living in a world that is important to respect each other and not let anything or our community, our beliefs and values sometimes separate us, because it's all about respect. If you're practicing a certain kind of religion, I always believe it's important to respect other religions. If you are from a different nationality or background, it's important to respect other nationalities and things like that. Right? Respect. And you start to see that respect also, when you're asking for respect, is also about how you carry yourself. Right? Being consistent with your disposition. There's nothing with having times with laughing. There's nothing wrong with sometimes having a little joke. It's important. Humor is also important, right? But always being mindful about not crossing the line of respect. Now think about all this. Think about all these life skills that we're talking about in areas from 1 through 9. And now here you come and you add you add respect for others. It's a good possibility or probability that you're going to go far in life. A lot of the times we might say things that we don't mean to say. But we also have to be very careful with our words and how we say it. Because again, it could be very disrespectful. Right? So again, being mindful about respect, trying to do your best, right? No one is perfect, but you really have to understand that respect goes a long way in life. Right? Also, think about would you feel if someone tried to disrespect you? Right? So just being mindful that we're living in a world that there's a lot of feelings involved. We're living in a world where there's a lot of situations going on, right? So we got to be very mindful, because sometimes even when we might say something that we really don't mean, can put us in a predicament where we can get in trouble, right? Whether it's a physical altercation, whether someone might get offended, whether it just might be that people are having the wrong interpretation of what you're trying to say, which you're probably just trying to be genuine, right? But probably your tone, the way you said it, made someone feel uncomfortable and disrespected, right? So not only being mindful about respect, but also being mindful about your tone of voice, right? Being mindful about the language sometimes, how it can be disrespectful, right? Good to know backgrounds of different cultures, right? Because I know a lot of different cultures have different traditions or celebrations, whatever it may be. And here you come saying something or bringing the wrong food to the crowd or whatever it may be, and it can also be a form of disrespect, right? So again, just being mindful that being respectful is very important. I know one of the things when I was a caseworker in social services, and I used to do my home visits. Again, this is a learning moment. You know, it wasn't easy. It was a very challenging job, right? Social services, doing home visits and going to courts and so many different things and supporting families in different areas. But there were some students or young men that were very challenging. And a lot of the times, you know, as a worker, you really try to have that balance where you're not really trying to take sides, the mom or the dad or the son or the child, right? We can say, but there were heating moments right in front of me, right? Where I had to get in the mirror and say, young man, let's have this conversation in the room. And then you look at dad or you look at mom and very disappointed, right? So then now we got to do that one-on-one with the student. I'm like, listen, what's going on here, young man? You can't be talking to your parents like that. That's very disrespectful. Oh, Mr. Torres, you know, they get on my nerves. I said, hold on. Let's take that from 10 to 5. Let's bring that down a little bit. Let's have this conversation. What is triggering you? Let's talk about some triggers. Person, place, or thing. Person, who? Mom? What's going on with mom? What's going on with dad? Let's talk about this, right? And try to put some interventions in place. Provide some supportive counseling for the student. Get them involved in some recreation activities. A lot of them I got them enrolled in basketball camps, basketball, karate, right? Tennis, right? Journaling, so many different things, right? To really understand that when you're having these outbursts and you're talking to your parents like that, that's very disrespectful. No, Mr. Torres, I'm sorry. No, don't worry about being sorry. Let's really dig into what's going on here, so you don't continue to make these mistakes and offend your parents. That's very disrespectful, right? And then every time, you know, I'll go by every other week, do that visit again, and we touch base on that. So how's it going with mom and dad? Et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Or I might just be like, mom and dad, how about you guys spend some time alone during the week and do some things together and get to know each other besides son and parent. It could be something with friends, friendship. There's nothing wrong with being good friends with your parents, as long as you're being respectful and as long as you know the difference that you can't be speaking to your parents the same way you speak to your peers in high school or school, right? Again, being respectful. And that goes for pretty much anyone, right? A lot of the times I've also seen, you know, again, being around for so long, how certain employees, the way they talk to their supervisors, very disrespectful. So again, learning moment. We're not pointing fingers. We're not here for that. We're being positive. We're doing this as a learning moment, right? Being mindful of the chain of command in a work environment. Who's your boss? Who's your supervisor? And understanding that when they are telling you things, depending how they say it too, right? Because sometimes it could seem offensive or whatever it may be. I was in that role for years, right? So again, just being respectful, knowing that is the supervisor speaking, that is the director, that is the principal, whatever it may be, right? So being mindful that we need to be respectful, right? And I'll say this one last thing to add to the respect. The last thing you want to do is get into a confrontation with someone over the disrespect. It can turn physical. Now you have an assault charge. Someone's getting arrested. That's going to go on your record, right? So we need to really think about and assess what's going on in our lives, what's really going on with our triggers, right? Because the last thing is we don't want to lash out and get ourselves in trouble or say something to the wrong person and regret it, right? So again, the importance about respecting others and also respecting yourself, right? Being mindful whenever we go into certain settings, right? We are dressing appropriately. And I'm speaking more about this topic to the youth, right? Being mindful, you know, that you are being watched, you're being observed, not only by your parents, but also by your younger siblings. So it's really, really, really important to respect others and respect yourself. And one last thing I'm going to say. I see a lot of youth out there, and I'm saying this respectfully, the foul language. That is so disrespectful, guys. Please be mindful of your language. even with teachers, even with counselors. Just be mindful with your language. It's very important to be respectful and knowing the difference of who you're speaking to at that moment. Because you can't feel comfortable speaking to your counselor the same way you speak to your peers, your teachers, right? That could be a form of disrespect, right? So again, a great learning moment today. We got dig deep. We went deep into understanding why respect is so important, respecting yourself, respecting others, right? And again, all learning moments. So, wrapping all this up, to all the youth out there, please, easy with the foul language, learning the importance of being respectful, knowing the difference between parents and friends, people in leadership roles or authority, people in authority roles, right? Respecting the chain of command. You know, you guys are all you youth out there eventually going to start working, right? If you have a tough supervisor, have that conversation with them. Don't go out and start yelling and being disrespectful because, you know, you don't want to lose your job, right? You don't want to get yourself in trouble, right? And that just goes for everyone in general. It's about conflict resolution, right? We're trying to put the temperature down and make sure we're making some good, positive decisions because we don't want to end up dealing with any bad consequences for something that in reality could have probably been dealt with a good conversation and learning to be respectful. All right, guys, wrapping all this up. Another episode with Sabor Latino, another learning moment. Before I let you guys go, I just want to say thank you guys for all your love and support. Oh, I almost forgot, and I can't forget it. I always try to make sure I give them a shout out. Shout out to all those social workers out there for, taking my 5th publication, You're a Beautiful and Special Person, and using it in their book, and using it in the classrooms and in their groups. I really, really appreciate that. I'm glad about the feedback I'm getting, that a lot of students are learning and really enjoying the book. So I really appreciate that. Shout out to the social workers out there. They do such a good job, right? And shout out to everyone out there doing your thing, helping New York City, helping the world, being positive. Shout out to all the nurses, right? I can't forget the nurses, teachers, right? Shout out to everyone in leadership roles. It's not easy supervising staff and people, right? So shout out to you guys, man. I compliment everyone out there trying to keep it right and trying to keep it positive. So with all this said, guys, be safe out there. Stay positive. Remember to come back in. We got one more episode, the last episode, self-care. Wow. And why is that so important about learning how to self-care? And I'll leave you with this. Think about what are some things you're doing right now at the moment with self-care and taking care of yourself. All right, guys, with that said, I'm going to wrap it up with these last words. No matter how difficult life gets, no matter how sometimes things can be challenging, no matter how sometimes you might feel unmotivated, no matter how sometimes you might have a bad argument with your husband, your wife, your parents, your children, no matter what you're looking at and looking in the mirror and thinking to yourself that you're not happy with what you see, I personally, Sabor Latino, want to tell you that everyone, you are a beautiful and special person, no matter what. Thank you and blessings. Good night.
Que ya ha pasado con todos los barrios, ya no hay cariño para nuestros niños. La escuela es importante, que ya ha pasado con todos los ambientes, que ya ha pasado con todos los barrios, ya no hay cariño para nuestros niños. Esto es complicado, pero tengo que hacerlo. Primero en línea, es el sabor latino. Es increíble lo que sigue pasando y mis palabras las siguen ignorando. La escuela nos sigue fallando y las maestras siguen en silencio. Hipocresía, todo es ganancia y en las guarderías siguen vendiendo drogas. Mundo frío, no existe conciencia, no dejes que te engañe la apariencia. Muchas corbatas y muchos trajes de vestir, mientras los niños tienen que sufrir. Hay dinero